So good morning. This is Jennifer Trentadue from Royal LePage Wollstonecroft Realty, and I'm joined this morning by the most beautiful Jill Stewart, who is with Royal LePage Benchmark in Calgary. Jill is a colleague of mine, and I've asked her to join me this morning so we could talk about a very topical topic. But before we do, maybe Jill, can you give us a quick little intro?
Sure, love to. Thanks, Jennifer. Originally, I'm from the Lower Mainland, actually. Grew up, went to school, went to university there, came to the prairies, came to Calgary in 1990, and I meant to go back. And the lure of the mountains and the kind of entrepreneurial spirit here, as well as growing my own family, has kept me in Calgary all this time. So I sell real estate here for Royal LePage Benchmark. I have a real estate team here. We do commercial, residential, and rural. I specialize in residential. And a lot of my business, I would say up to 30% in the last 2 years, has been people coming from primarily BC and Ontario relocating to Calgary.
Which is hence the topic of our conversation today. There has just been so much chatter in the news. Actually, I was looking at a advertisement that I think your government did back in 2022, where it was enticing people to come to Calgary. Am I right?
Yeah, interestingly enough, a new one went out this week. So the Alberta government is offering $5,000 for tradespeople coming from other provinces to come to Alberta.
This is it, right? This is the one.
That's it.
Yeah, I saw that. So they're looking for people to come.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we need people to build houses here for all the people that are coming. So
Yeah.
that's bang on. That is true. That just
Yeah.
came out.
There's been some changes in the way Calgary does real estate, which we're going to talk about. But I'm just going to quickly talk about my relationship with you and my referral network. So I have been selling real estate, residential real estate in the Fraser Valley, or Metro Vancouver, as they call it, for about 18 years. And what's happened over the last few years, especially during COVID, is there's been a mass migration, this move east that started with, people wanting to or not having to work from an office space during COVID. So we had this shift of people moving from Vancouver out to the Fraser Valley, and then they've continued moving east, and they're even now moving provinces, which is shocking. We had in my career, I've had lots of people that have moved from the Fraser Valley to the Okanagan and the island, but in the last few years, the numbers have just been shockingly changed to
Yeah.
switch to Alberta. Do you have those exact numbers?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll tell you, 2023, Q1, 2, and 3, there was a total of 145,000 people arrive in Calgary. So not Alberta, in Calgary. Interprovincially, that was 45,000. The other 100,000 were combination of primarily Ukrainian and Filipino immigrants. There were 12,500 migrate from BC, net migration from BC to Calgary in Q1 to Q3. Yeah, like 12,500.
Mhm.
So they're coming daily. 62 new residents a day are arriving in Calgary right now.
Wow. So, and then that is what brings us to talking together today, because everywhere I turn, it's in the news, and there's a lot of people that are really thinking about making this move, and part of my business, has been networking with other realtors for the last 10 years. I've been going to conferences and building up my referral network across the country. And so Jill, and you and I met about 7 years ago. And we recognized fairly quickly that I think, work very similarly
For
uh,
sure.
with our clients, and always putting our clients first and foremost. So you are my girl for the Calgary
Mhm.
market, and so we decided, after chatting about all this, what is the fuss with everybody moving to Calgary, to kind of do a little webinar for some of my clients or people that might be interested in making the move to Calgary and talk a little bit about how that looks. So
Yeah.
we decided to divide this presentation into two sections, and one is why move and what the pros and cons might be for that, and some Q&A for that. And then the second segment we're going to talk about briefly is investing in the Alberta market. So can you tell me why are people going?
Well, somebody once said it's the economy, stupid. And so, in all honesty, that was the beginning of it. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about people starting the work from home process. So we had a lot of young people who grew up in either the GTA or the GVA, Greater Toronto or Greater Vancouver areas, who were unable to even dream about home ownership. It has just become out of reach for so many people. So you've got young, well-educated trade or university grads looking for a place to settle. And being able to work from home, the lure of the mountains and the Rockies seemed to pull hard for people. So the first wave of the migration, honestly, was young people. And they came with lots of energy, lots of enthusiasm, a quest for a good sort of cultural environment, which I think, to be totally honest, we had been missing for some time in Calgary. And so that was the first wave. And those were people who could afford to buy a $400,000 or $500,000 property that they could live in forever. That might have been a townhouse, it might have been a detached home. That was the first wave. Then what started to happen was their families are following. So a young couple might have come in 2020, decided to have children. Grandma and grandpa, let's say in the Fraser Valley, can cash out now, pay cash for a home here, put half the money back in the bank and retire to a nice lifestyle. What was interesting, what people found as they arrived, was it wasn't just the economy, although that does play a big role. There are certain things. We have no provincial sales tax here. Gas is an average of 60 cents per liter cheaper here than it is in the Greater Vancouver area. As of yesterday, we now have a land transfer tax, but it is by far the smallest in the country, probably about $1,000 on an average purchase. So a big savings there compared to other provinces, particularly BC. So the economic benefits of coming here, but they started to realize, you can actually be in the Rocky Mountains 45 minutes from being in downtown Calgary. Oppositionally, if you go east, you can be in the real prairies, like the heart of the Wheatland County, where you've got regular stampedes and rodeos, and so a completely different lifestyle. Those are the drivers, really, that sent people here.
And I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room quickly, and that is the prices of housing. And I put together a little graph here to share with you because I was shocked at these numbers.
Yeah,
absolutely gobsmacked. So these are benchmark numbers.
So you've got a benchmark property in the Fraser Valley for $1.5 million. You come and buy that same property here, and you're putting almost $800,000 in the bank. It's madness.
It's substantial. I mean, we're looking at double on almost all categories.
Totally. Yeah. It really is amazing.
And these are Fraser Valley numbers too. So downtown Vancouver numbers are even double our numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a massive difference that we have in terms of housing prices. So
absolutely.
So people are going there because there's lots of young people and then their families following. There's great outdoors things. Culturally, things are changing. So
I would also say,
we're cowboy.
We're for sure. I mean, we are redeveloping here. A not so sexy story in the news is that Alberta is leading the country in renewable energy. So all of our big oil, as we call them here, all of our big oil companies are transitioning, not completely, because let's be truthful, oil and gas continues to be the prime driver of economy here. But all of those big companies are making massive investments in renewable energies. So, it's not a story that people like to tell because it doesn't fit people's stereotype of what's happening in Calgary.
Yeah.
But that renewable push has also encouraged young people with interesting backgrounds and educations to come and work in this developing new economy here. The other big one is health technology. Lots of movement here. Another one would be aeronautics. We just heard that de Havilland is opening a whole new plant here and a new airport just east of town and bringing 1,500 jobs from Ontario. Another project is a reclamation and a carbon capture massive project that's just been announced for just east of Calgary as well. So lots of dynamic stuff going on here.
We didn't actually even touch on the differences in income taxation.
Right.
There's substantial differences in your provincial taxation.
Yeah.
I understand as well.
Yeah, that's right. Once you hit the $125,000 plus income rate, taxes here, approximately 15% less than you're going to pay. So massive savings as far as that goes as well.
And how about that bright sunshiny thing that's coming through your window, where my window is gray and depressing?
Well, we are the Canada's sunniest city, 333 days of sunshine. Now, full disclosure, the brightness is snow today. So that would be the other elephant in the room.
I actually have snow on the ground here this morning too, which is
Well,
really
that makes me feel better.
Yeah, March 2nd.
It makes me feel way better.
Yeah.
And occasionally you can hear something outside. It's someone blowing the snow. But let's pretend that it's someone mowing the lawn in case you hear it.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the pros. So the cons for living in Calgary then would be maybe the weather.
The weather. Honestly, I don't feel that there are any more. I think, as I referred to earlier, our restaurant cultural scene was not great before. It really is great now. The Calgary International Airport has direct flights everywhere. So it's not like, you have to drive from my house. I'm 15, 20 minutes to an international airport, which is a hub, direct flights. So I don't know, other than the weather right now, I'm not sure I could list any reasons why I don't want to be here.
So how about for people that are going there, is it easy for them to find work?
Yes, the unemployment rate was hovering around 3% in December, and that 3% are really people who weren't looking for work. We have about the same hourly minimum wage rate here as you have in BC. I think it's 25 cents different. Mm-hmm. But the average wage is higher here than it is in the Fraser Valley. Yeah.
Okay. So downsides, just the weather, you think, and otherwise it's pretty popular. Pretty popular.
It really is.
I mean, is it maybe becoming too popular in terms of the ease for people to find homes?
Well, I'll tell you, that's our latest challenge. As of this morning, inventory in Calgary was at 2,377 units of all kinds. So if you think that our current population is 1.65 million in Calgary, and there are currently under 2,400 units to purchase, we are in a strong seller's market. We are short rental units. We are short residential purchasing units. I think that speaks to your point earlier about having contacts in other cities, which you've done, like you are the best at doing that, building that referral network. Because I don't think that sitting on your computer at home and going through realtor.ca is going to be beneficial in a market like this at all. The projections, both the Calgary Real Estate Board and Royal LePage projections for 2024, and you and I both know that the projections out of Royal LePage are almost always on point, like eerily accurate. They are predicting, depending on the property type, between 8 and 13%, all the way up to 20%. They're talking about increase in value this year. The biggest jump they're predicting in the condo apartments, because you can still get into a decent two-bed, two-bath condo apartment for $320,000.
Mhm.
Rent on that unit right now would be about $2,500, and it would be easy to rent. So if you do some quick math and don't have to take a big mortgage, that is, leading into our next discussion about investments. That's a good investment.
Mhm. And I guess just before we start that segment, I think that there has to be a conversation with people who are coming there or wanting to go there about their expectations and
Sure.
managing that, because maybe they think, oh, everything is just rosy. What is it called, the Rose Country, Calgary?
Wild Rose Country.
Yes, wild rose. So everyone wants to go to this, this land of magic where
Yeah,
everything is cheaper and better and,
yeah.
all
Yeah.
that. But what if
Yeah,
it's
you really
difficult?
do need to be really working with an agent who knows what they're doing. You also may need to be flexible enough that you're willing to buy a property without seeing it.
Mhm.
So I would say, again, looking back on last year and referrals, and I sold a couple of places to people that you sent me via FaceTime. Something would come on, I would run out, FaceTime them, they would write the offer, then they'd fly in. Sometimes they didn't fly until the day of possession,
Right.
depending on what they were looking for. So you need to have an agent who's flexible and willing to work all the time, which
Yeah.
you are, and
And you
I
are.
am.
Yeah.
And that's why we look like this, even though we're like 35.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
for
so
sure.
you need to be definitely working with somebody who understands the market
Mhm.
and understands segments of the market. So in Calgary, not unlike anywhere else, we have areas of town where I would recommend you buy, and areas of town where I would recommend maybe you not buy, depending on what your needs and desires were. We have 4 quadrants in Calgary: the northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast, all very different. So important that you can work with someone who can explain all of that to you.
And from what I understand, and I've only been to Calgary a few times, Calgary's quite small, right? Like it's not like the outskirts of Vancouver, which take you an hour and a half to get to.
No, for sure. I would say from tip to toe, depending on how you were looking at it, we've got beautiful ring roads and beautiful byways and highways. So I would say you'd be hard pressed to spend more than 30 minutes getting from one quadrant
Mm.
all the way to the bottom of another quadrant.
Wow.
The other thing that we do have available are 4 smaller towns, or now some of them are cities. Cochrane to our west, which is really in the mountains and absolutely beautiful, population of 50,000 there now. Okotoks to the south, 38,000 people in Okotoks. Airdrie is north of us, and there's 85,000 people now in Airdrie. And Strathmore, the smallest of the communities and the furthest away, it's about a half-hour drive from town, is 16,500 people.
Mhm.
Around all of that, of course, is pastoral land, and we have ranchers and we have farmers, and we just sold a duck farm this week. So really interesting, but kind of something for everybody in those areas.
Is there also potential room for new build for to be able to handle these massive amounts of people coming in?
Yeah, the only thing stopping us, obviously, it's not land, because the only place we can bump into is Banff. Other than that, we can keep going. We are not restricted geographically the same way that you guys are. I think the only thing slowing us down right now is not a lack of developers with interest. It is a lack of skilled tradespeople. Hence the ad you pulled up earlier.
The incentive. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that kind of takes us to our next segment, which is investing in Alberta, because that is obviously an attractive idea if the prices are going up and there was no property land transfer tax that just is about to change in July. But it's very small in comparison to what we pay here in BC. I think you said something like $1,000 on a $500,000 purchase, which
Yeah,
would be about 7,000 for us here
right.
in BC. So why else would someone want to invest there?
Well, as I kind of briefly referred to earlier, we've got a very tight rental market. And one of the interesting differences between BC and Alberta is that we don't have rent caps here. So the market here dictates what the price of rent is going to be.
Okay.
If you were renting an apartment at $2,000 last year and you can get 3,000 for your next tenant, there is nothing standing in the way of doing that.
Can you
I would
increase the
say,
rent as well while a
sorry,
tenant is in it? Can you increase the rent while there's a tenant in it?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. There are obviously some restrictions on that in terms of the amount of time that you need to give notice and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, so I would say investing for a number of reasons, maybe you can speak to this. Your family decided to become investors and property holders in Calgary this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that is a good story to tell here. I have a 25-year-old child who graduated from UBC last year or 2 years ago, and was living downtown Vancouver, paying 2,500 a month for a closet, and just started thinking, there's got to be something better. She initially thought about moving to Toronto, and we had to have that hard conversation with her. That is, it's not a great move. It's very lateral. You may not get ahead. And so she decided to go to Calgary, or to look at Calgary. So we flew out to Calgary, funnily enough, her and I, in January, wanting to see what the climate might be like. It was -10. It was totally doable. So 6 months later, she decided to move out there, found a great paying job, and we put her in a rental. You helped her find a rental. Thank you so much, for a few months, just to see whether she really would like it. And then after 6 months, she's like, Mom, I'm not coming back. I love it here.
Yeah.
I love the young people. I love the cultural scene here. I love the outdoors. I can get ahead financially here. So we did decide to take the plunge and bought a condo. She is now currently living in this beautiful condo right downtown Calgary. It was 300 and change for this property. The purchase was, like you said, I didn't even see it. You
Yeah,
actually
right.
showed it to her.
Yeah,
So it has, and I think that from what I understand, it's already appreciated in the few months that we've owned it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's another unit in there that's gone on for about 10% more than you paid for it. So
Yeah.
it was a great investment. It's a beautiful building, kind of has a bit of a boutique hotel sort of vibe to it. Just gorgeous, safe downtown building.
Mhm.
That's the other thing, is that, honestly, and I have young adult children as well. There are places in Vancouver I wouldn't want them to live. There are very few places in Calgary that I would say, I don't think so. And, when your daughter said she wanted to live downtown here, that was easy for me to find her a great, lovely apartment downtown. And to your point, she's now in a property that is owned. My sons have purchased properties, townhomes, but they're in the market. They've got their foot in the market. And if we were still in BC, there's just not a chance I could help them at all, or that they could help themselves.
It's going to be very difficult for many young people here. And that is the conversation I'm having with a lot of clients, aside from the ones that are moving to Calgary for, different
Sure.
reasons. It's just, how are our young people ever going to be
Yeah.
homeowners
Well,
here?
I'll tell you, I was speaking to a developer here who's building an apartment building about 5 minutes from my house. And I asked who was buying them, because they're pre-construction. So you're putting 10% down now. You have to come up with the rest of the money probably fall 2025. They said people are buying them for their 10 and 12-year-olds, thinking that by the time those kids are 10 and 12,
Wow.
they'll rent them, right? They'll buy them now, rent them out. But by the time their kids are 22 or 23 or 25 and have jobs, those kids at least can buy them off the parents and have their foot in the market.
Yeah. I know I've had conversations with clients at least once a week, twice a week now, that are talking about Alberta, Edmonton,
Yeah.
Calgary.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
met,
and Edmonton's even cheaper. It's just
yes.
not nearly as good.
Well, some people love it. If their children are there, they're going to follow their kids, that type of
Absolutely.
thing. But
Yeah.
I had a family that called me, repeat clients of mine that called me 5 or 6 years ago and said, you know what, we've decided to move to Spruce Grove. I'd never
Yeah.
heard of Spruce
Just outside
Grove.
of Edmonton.
They
Yeah.
were in Walnut Grove here in the Fraser Valley, and they
Okay.
went to Spruce Grove, and they just said, it makes sense for our family, and they were able to cash out of their home here, bought a beautiful house there, and they're very, very happy. So
Yeah. absolutely.
It is happening. There is some slight differences in purchasing in Alberta, which,
Yeah, I would say, and interesting, I'm on the other end of it right now, selling my mom's property on Vancouver Island because she's moving here. So I'm
ah,
getting a look at that too. There are some differences in how we do procedures. Generally, it's the same, and certainly we're able to work with electronic signing packages, so we don't have to worry about you going in to see anybody to sign in front of. So that's nice. There are easy ways for us to get this done for sure.
mhm. One thing to note I found very different was your strata fees for condos and townhouses. They are quite a bit higher, and that's I'm assuming, well, for sure, due to the fact that your weather dictates the need for heated parking.
For sure, that's a big one. The other one is landscaping. So, as you can hear, my guys are out mowing the lawn right now. Not. They're blowing the snow and shoveling the snow. So, for sure, the heated underground parking is huge in the condo apartments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was actually very concerned about Olivia, my daughter, driving around in Calgary with all the snow that you have, and she said it has never been an issue so far that she's been there because your snow clearing is so good. So that's probably
for sure. I know it's funny when you guys have snow days and you're not going
nobody
anywhere.
goes anywhere.
What's a snow day? That's every day.
Yeah, yeah. So you have good management for that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what would you suggest is the most popular purchase that people are making for investment in Calgary?
Yeah, condo apartments for sure. Um, I would say again, you're looking at 2,000 to $2,500 a month rent on a $300,000 investment.
Mhm.
Alternatively, if you bought a benchmark priced home at $700,000, you could rent that out for close to $5,000 at this point. So I think the return on your investment dollar is better, just
Mhm.
simply better.
Mhm. So, it sounds like I need to be packing my bags pretty soon. Is that what you're telling me?
I think you do. I got a spot for you right down the street.
Well, thank you so much, Jill. Do you have anything to add to this mass migration
Well, just that
situation?
come as you will. I mean, there's nothing limiting the growth here. We're not afraid of the growth here because we can manage it. Um, I would say that what we need is good, skilled tradespeople or people who are willing to work in fields that will help us continue our growth. It is kind of a bit of a Wild West mentality here, very entrepreneurial. People work hard and play hard, and it's a different environment. It's a little more fast paced. But you know what? If I hated it, I would have gone back. And here I am 30 years later, and yeah, I'm here for good.
Aw. Well, thank you so much, Jill. I hope you have a great day out there in that bright sunshine and snow. I appreciate your time this morning, and I know that my clients are in incredibly good hands when I send them your way.
Happy to help them for sure.
Yeah, so thanks again, and we will talk again soon. And I know that I can refer you to people who have questions as well in the future.
Anytime. Yeah, I've got a bunch of printed materials, but I'm happy always to talk on the phone.
Great, thank you.
Okay, have a
Have a good
great
day.
day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.